Aloha and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to discuss the filming locations that were used in episode number 17. The title is J. Digger Doyle and it aired on April 9th, 1981. So without further delay, let's get started. All right, here's an overview of the island with this episode's various filming locations. As you can see, this entire episode was filmed down here on the southeast portion of Oahu. And as you can see on this frame here, this scene was supposed to be somewhere in France 2 days ago. However, this was not filmed in France. This was filmed in Kaneohe on the Ho'omaluhia Botanical Garden grounds. And that is where we will drop down to now, and I will show you exactly where it was filmed. All right, so in this frame, Robin Masters is driving along in his Rolls Royce, and we see him coming down this road here, turn right there. Let me drop down and match some of this up. Let's see, let's slide over just a bit. All right, something like that. So yeah, in this frame, Rolls Royce is about right there, and it comes around and goes that way. Take a look at that. Let's see here, kind of line that up. Car would have been about right there. We get our title screen here, J. Digger Doyle, and then the Rolls cruises past the camera about right here. And then we get some footage inside the Rolls Royce. Robin Masters, he's in there dictating one of his new novels to a tape recorder here. And then we get some more driving scenes. We see it's later in the evening. It's dark. And it's kind of funny. We get a nighttime shot of them coming down the exact same road. You got fake French road signs dressed along the street here. And then we get this scene. Yeah, this was not shot too far from this location. Pop up and I'll show you where this was filmed. That was filmed right, let's see here, right on this corner here, and we're going to drop down there. Let's see. So yeah, in this frame, Robin's coming down this hill in the Rolls. And then we can see there's been a car accident. There's a car on the side of the road over here. Someone is in the road here, injured. And as they come down closer to the accident, Rene, he spots it. He knows instantly that this is a trap. Robin tells him to stop, but he knows better. And he shoots around right here. And he just floors it. And this person pops up, starts shooting at them. Another one comes out of the woods here, and they all start shooting at Robin as they speed away to safety. Kind of match that up. They speed away and go around the corner here. And then we see a third person come out of the woods here, and they're like, oh, he got away. God, what are we going to do now? And this individual, his name is David. We'll see him again later in this episode. He says, well, now Robin, he runs to wherever he's hidden the tapes. And we just need to cover all of his homes and his estates until we know which one that he's going to. And real quick, if you don't know, this individual playing Lisa in this episode, this is Jacqueline Ray. This is Tom Selleck's first wife. She had guest star appearances in a couple episodes of Magnum. I believe it was, let's see, this one, J. Digger Doyle, and she was in The Birdman of Budapest. Next, we get this scene. We see Tom out on a morning jog on the beach. This scene was shot right through here on Kahala Beach. And as he's jogging along, a beautiful woman runs up behind him, smiles. He says hi, and then she just sprints off into the distance. Let me drop down and match this up real quick. All right, so in the distance there, you can see the Kahala Hilton there. It's a much nicer day when they shot this scene than it was when Google took this footage. And then from here, they moved down to the King Kamehameha Club beach bar, which was shot just a little further down the beach. Let's see here. Right down here at the Wailai Beach Park. Right here. And we'll drop back down and match this up. So in this frame, this table that they're at would have been, about right there where that second picnic table is located today. And Tom sits down, orders a beer. Rick starts to tell him about this great new fruit juice that he's found to keep him healthy. He says he doesn't need to run on the beach. He just drinks this fruit juice concoction. Tom, he tastes it. And he says, "Oh, you forgot to tell me about the vodka." And Rick, he's like, I added that for flavoring. And then that same woman, she comes walking past Tom, and he says, "Hey, nice race on the beach." And she says, "Oh, I didn't know we were racing." And then she just turns and heads down to her surf ski down there on the beach, which would have been about right there somewhere. Rick explains that her name is Joy Doyle. She's an archaeologist. She's a member of the Malibu Surf Club who shares memberships with the King Kamehameha Club. And he says, in the last 36 hours, no one else has been able to break the ice with her either. And Tom, he's like, I'm not trying to break any ice. And then he sits and he watches her down there at the surf ski for a moment. And he says, it's kind of funny, he's like, she might beat me in a race on the beach, but she would never beat me on a surf ski. And part of me would like to go down there and prove it, but that would be childish. And then 2 seconds later, there he is. He's grabbed his surf ski and he's out there trying to race her. And this entire next surf ski race scene was shot just right out here in the Kahala Beach Cove, right out here. They're paddling along, and he's like, I don't know if I can keep this pace up. And then they call it a tie. They come to a stop just right, out here. Tom introduces himself. Joy, or Digger, introduces herself. And then from here, we see them leaving the King Kamehameha Club. And as you can tell, this is not the Wailai Beach Park. This was filmed at the Elks Lodge in Honolulu. In this frame, we see them leaving the entrance of the club right through here, going out to pick up Digger's car. The valet pulls up, and it's a red Ferrari that looks identical to Magnum's Ferrari. And he's like, "Is this your car?" And she's like, "Yeah, doesn't it look like my car?" And he says, "No, it looks like my car." And Pat, the valet here, he's like, "Yeah, I thought this was Robin's car too." And she's like, "Yeah, I knew your name wasn't Magnum, it's Robin." And he gets in the car and he explains that, "No, my car, it technically belongs to Robin Masters, the writer." And she's like, "You know Robin Masters?" And he's like, "Yeah, I live on his estate, and that's where we're going to go if you ever put the car in drive." And in this frame right here, they're sitting just right there. Next, we see Digger and Tom driving to the estate. In this scene here, we see Digger come flying around this corner here. They're on the Kalanianiole Highway. This is that same corner where in the pilot episode of Magnum, where LeBoul's hitman went over the edge, they used this stretch of the highway a lot in Magnum. But yeah, we see Digger come flying down the road here, like so. And then we get some more footage of them driving along the highway, right through kind of this area here. There's really not a whole lot to match up. But as they're driving along, she's asking Magnum about Robin and his lifestyle. And as they're driving, we get some footage of Robin Masters in his jet. This is actually just stock footage that they used in this episode. I'll kind of go into it a little later in this video. But we see Renee in the cockpit with David Jones here. This is actually the aerial coordinator for Magnum PI. He was playing the pilot in this episode. Kind of funny. He says, "Yeah, I need to know where we're going." So Renee heads back to Robin, asks where he wants to fly to, and he hands him a map. And then Renee heads back up into the cockpit. And then Robin says, "Get me Hawaii" on the phone. So kind of tips us off to where they're actually going to go eventually. And then we see Magnum and Digger arriving back at the estate. We'll head over there. Now we'll drop down, match some of this up. All right, let's see here. So in this frame, they would have been about right there. And they pull up to the main gate. Magnum presumably had been dropped off at the club, and that's why Digger has offered to drive him back to the estate. They park right here. Tom gets out, and he heads over to the gate right here. And they put up a little fake doorbell and intercom system right here above. You can just barely make it out right there. The real doorbell right there. So yeah, that would have been right there. And he tells Higgins, "Let me in, Higgins. What do I need to trade to get in?" Because he didn't have his clicker to get in because it's in his Ferrari. And meanwhile, Higgins, he's on the phone with Robin Masters, and he gets tired of hearing Magnum buzzing the intercom system, so he just lets him in. Tom jumps back into the Ferrari, and they drive through onto the estate property here. And from there, we see Higgins finishing up his phone call with Mr. Masters, telling him that security at the estate is impenetrable. And then we see the lads become alerted to someone or something, which is always a dead giveaway that Magnum's about to show up. He brings Digger into the main house, and he heads into the den and asks if he can show Digger around. And Higgins is like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Digger, come on in." As she's coming in to the den, she reaches into her purse. We see her pull out a firearm, and they're like, "Oh no, what is going on here?" She makes her way over to the desk, to the red phone. She calls Robin Masters and says that she's got Mr. Higgins and Mr. Magnum slightly inconvenienced. She hands the phone over to Higgins. He talks to Robin for a moment and then hangs up. explains that Digger is a special agent with Starguard, a firm that protects VIPs. It also explains that Robin had received a death threat, saying that if he publishes this book he's working on, these people they're going to kill him. And Magnum, he kind of gets after her. He says, this isn't Higgins' fault. I let you in. And then in this little scene here, a little bit of an oopsie up here. You can see part of the set up here above Tom's head. They made a similar mistake a little later in this episode as well. And again, this would have been all filmed inside of the stage one at the Hawaii Film Studio there. And Higgins, he states, no, it's my fault. He takes responsibility for it. He says that Digger is now in charge of security at the estate, and that he's taking orders from her. And then he offers to show her around the estate. And they head out of the main house so that he can show her around. They come out of the main house about right there, and he sees the other Ferrari, and he instantly realizes how she suckered Magnum. And then they head over, they jump into the Jimmy, climb in, and then they see the lads go running across the estate, about right here. So they chase them, and then they arrive at this location about right here, where we see TC. He's pinned up in a tree. He's like, that is it, Higgins. I have had it with these mangy paw hounds. Higgins, he sends the lads away. TC comes down. Digger asks, how he got onto the estate. And he's like, the same way we always do when the gate's locked. We just hop the fence. Higgins like, no, that's impossible. You would have set off the alarm. And then we see them over at this location, right around in here for this next scene. Tom finds an alarm bypass sensor wired into the system. And Digger, she says something to the effect that, this alarm system is as antiquated as a World War II soldier, which obviously offends Higgins. And he's like, if you'll excuse me, I need to feed the lads. And TC's like, oh, this is awkward. He says, wait up, Higgy baby, I'm coming with you. And then again, Tom, he kind of starts to berate Digger again for how she's gone about this whole thing. And, she says, I'm only here until Robin comes and picks up his tapes from this novel he's working on, if they're even here. And she says, I just need your help. I need your help. I need TC, Rick, and Higgins. I need all your help while I'm here. And once the tapes are secure and Robin is gone, I'll recommend that Higgins be put back in charge of security if you guys will help me. Kind of blackmails them. And from there, we see Tom trying to convince TC to work with Digger and Starguard. And this location, I've covered it in a previous video, but this location today is a United Airlines cargo facility, kind of their back lot right there. But TC, he doesn't want anything to do with the whole situation. He thinks Digger's crazy. Tom keeps working on him, and then TC finally admits, he says, look, here's what's going on. I got hired by this rich guy and his wife to fly him around for 7 days. And I'm going to make $7,000 plus a bonus. And Tom's like, no problem. Starguard, they'll pay that same fee. Not a problem. And then that couple, they show up for their first flight. Tom does something kind of shady here. He starts to act sick. And then he walks over to the Ferrari. And he collapses down into the Ferrari, and the wife, she hops out, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And he says, "Yeah, I'll be okay once I get my stomach back. And she says, "Oh, you're not used to flying, huh?" And he says, "Oh no, I'm a check pilot for the FAA, and in all my years, I've never flown with someone so incompetent and dangerous." And she's like, "Who are you talking about?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not at liberty to say." And then he turns and he waves to TC, making it obvious who he's talking about. And poor TC, he's like, "What's going on over there?" And then everybody starts to climb into their cars to drive away. And he starts to chase after them. And but it's too late. Everyone is out of there. Now this, I can kind of match some stuff up with this frame right here. So in this frame, if you look at that wing right there from this plane, it would be that plane right there. And directly in front of that plane, you can see a Chevron fuel island, which is right there. And then across from that fuel island, you can see a hangar right there. And that's that hangar right there. But yeah, today this whole area has been redeveloped. It's now a United Airlines cargo facility. Next, we see everyone back at the estate going over the plan that they're going to implement to keep Robin safe when he comes to pick up the tapes. And Digger, she starts to give everyone their responsibilities. She tells Higgins he's going to go to the airport, pick up the new security system, and install it. She tells TC that he's going to fly to the airport and pick up Higgins, and then she tells Rick that he's going to stand guard at the front gate. And he's like, "Yep, I knew it. That's all I ever did in the Corps was guard duty." Kind of funny. And then she tells Magnum that he's just going to stay there and make sure that she doesn't make any mistakes. And then he decides to finally go over and do a quick background check on her. He calls up to Robin's jet. And real quick, this footage, I referenced it earlier. This is actually just Lockheed Jetstar 2 promotional footage that Universal used in this episode. They acquired the rights to it. They either acquired the rights to it or they helped Lockheed film this promotional footage for this aircraft. It was at the time, this is a brand new. This plane was actually the first one ever built. So I suspect that Universal had a hand in helping them film this promotional video for the rights to it, because some of this exact footage here showed up in an episode of The Bionic Woman just 2 or 3 years prior to them using it in Magnum. Kind of interesting. But yeah, Tom calls up there. He gets Renee. He also works for Starguard. He's the agent protecting Robin. And he asks Renee to give a physical description of Digger, which he does. He describes her as being as cold as an iceberg. And then he says she also has a little birthmark on her lower buttocks. And Tom, he says, "Oh yeah, I've seen it." And then hangs up the phone. Digger says, "Oh, you could have told him that you saw it while I was running on the beach or surf skiing." And he's like, "Oh no, I was talking about his description of you being as cold as an iceberg." And then he walks out. Next, we see Higgins leaving the estate. He goes out and he gets into the Audi to go pick up the security system. And then as he is driving away, we see him start a tape recorder, and he starts to dictate his resignation into the tape recorder to Robin Masters. And then he pulls up to the gate. Rick's out there on guard duty. And then let me show you a couple things here real quick at this location. So today, the current owner of this property has gone to great lengths to kind of disguise Robin's Nest. Completely changed the location of this gate. But you can see the way you can tell where the old gate was is the gatehouse right here still exists. It's right there. So the gate used to be right here. If I go back in time to, we'll go back to 2009. Yeah, you can see right there. The gatehouse there. But Higgins pulls up. Rick opens the gate, and away he goes. And the next time we see Higgins, he's at this location. This scene was also shot up at the Ho'omolahia Botanical Gardens. He's driving along. He's still dictating his resignation, and he looks up ahead of him. Let's see here. Let me drop down to about right here. Spin this around. Let's see, back up just a hair. Match this up. We see somebody on a motor scooter right here, and then somebody in a Mustang, black Mustang, pulling out of here, and they cut off the motor scooter, and that person crashes right here. And then that, I think it's a Mustang, just pulls away and takes off. And then Higgins, he pulls over, pull forward just a hair here. We see Higgins pull the Audi over right here. And earlier I referenced another flub in this episode. You can see the film crew that was filming the stuff over here. They're hiding right there behind a couple banana trees. But if you pause it, yeah, you can see him plain as day. Kind of funny. It's kind of wild. This whole area used to be just banana trees, and today, I mean, they are gone. If you've never been to the Ho'omolahia Botanical Gardens, go. It is beautiful. It's free. But yeah, all of these banana trees are gone. This is where they also filmed the chase scene from The Ugliest Dog in Hawaii, where the patch was located. Same place. But Higgins, he pulls over right here, and then he sprints across the street to check on Lisa, and goes to try and wake her up, and she pulls a pistol on him, and he's like, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." Next, we get another really quick shot of the inside of Robin's jet. He's still inside the jet, dictating his new novel. This aircraft that they filmed inside of, this would have been at the Honolulu International Airport. And then we get some more flying footage. It appears to, make a turn like it's heading towards Hawaii. Next, we get an establishing shot of the estate. And then we see that there's somebody at the front gate here returning the Audi. He says that Higgins bought a ticket back to London, gave him the Audi and a note to take back to the estate. And Tom, he says, describe Higgins. And the guy describes him. Sounds like Higgins. But then Rick says, "Did he tip you?" And the guy returning the Audi says, "Yeah, he gave me $20. And they're like, nope, that wasn't Higgins. Next, we get an establishing shot at this location, which I will go into more detail here in just a moment. But we see that the two individuals who abducted Higgins. This is where they've taken him. They're administering some drug so that he'll answer their questions. And then they start to ask about, with you not at the estate, who's in charge of security. And he starts to talk about the lads, and the two doing the interrogation, they don't really understand what he's saying, what any of that means. But we see somebody else in another room watching the computer monitors, and we see it's that individual from the opening scene of the episode, David. He says, I understand what he's saying. Keep asking him questions. Next, we see Tom and Digger back at the estate. They're searching the Audi for a clue as to what actually happened to Higgins. In this scene, the Audi would have been parked about right there. And again, they're searching it. They stop to discuss the situation. They have a little romantic moment while they're doing that. And then they get back to searching it. And Tom, he kind of on a whim, he pushes play on the cassette recorder, realizes that it was still playing when Higgins got abducted. And he basically is giving them a narration of where he was taken. He says, laseronics, I hope you're not planning to use lasers on me. And basically tells them where he's at. From there, we see Tom and Digger casing out the laseronics facility, trying to figure out how they're going to get in there, to rescue Higgins. Digger, she's pointing out the various security measures that the facility has. And Tom says, I actually served here while I was in the Navy, and nobody is going to expect us to sneak in from up there. And Digger's like, how are we getting up there? And then we see TC flying them in and dropping them off at this location, which we'll take a look at right here. So this platform that they get off at is right there. You can see the Omega station down there. They exit the helicopter, and they start to make their way down a set of stairs that go from the Omega station up to this location. And this set of stairs is called the Haiku stairs, or the stairway to heaven. It became because of this episode of Magnum PI, it became a very popular hike. So popular that, it's illegal today. Just too many people going up there. It's just too dangerous. So if you get caught doing this today, you get a pretty hefty fine. I think it's like $1,000. Would almost be worth it, though. Man, I would love to hike the Haiku stairs. But they continue down the stairs, and this is where we get that very, very famous shot of Tom. This shot right here made its way into the Magnum intro in all 8 seasons. They go down to the Omega station. Let me line this up as best I can. This shot of the Omega station, that door right there is that door right there. The shot was taken from this roadway down here. Now, what this was, this Omega system, there were 8 stations like this around the world. And at the time of the filming of this episode, this particular Omega station, it was staffed and operated by the United States Coast Guard. And basically what this was it provided, think of it as GPS navigation for planes, ships, and submarines before GPS was even a thing. These stations, they used radio frequencies instead of satellites. And that's as technical and deep as I'm going to get into that. But they make their way into the building. They notice there's a bunch of cameras in there. However, the two individuals that are guarding Higgins, they're preoccupied with a phone call. Tom and Digger, they make their way into the building, start searching it. And yeah, look at that, boy. The Coast Guard. This is probably a very coveted duty station right here. Sit and play pool all day long. But yeah, they make their way through the building. They find Higgins in bed, break into the room. They notice there's cameras in there as well. Realize that Higgins has been drugged. And they're able to free him from the handcuffs. And then they secure him onto Tom. And Tom starts to carry him out of the facility. Now, just as they're about to make their way out of the facility, Digger can't help herself. She sneezes. And the two guards, they hear it. They see them on the monitors. And then these guys have to make a run for it out of the building. And we see them running up this set of stairs and this platform here. And those set of stairs and that platform, it's horribly overgrown today. I don't even know if you can make it out. But these stairs are right there. Maybe just barely make out the stairs. And then they start to make their way this way, which is opposite the direction they came from, which is kind of funny. The two guards, they come running out of the building. Let's see, they come down the stairs here, and in this frame, they're running right here towards that little set of stairs and platform. But in reality, the Haiku stairs are over here. The beginning of the stairs are over here. That's where they'd be, right here in this frame. And yeah, that's right here in this frame. John Hillerman is really on Tom Selleck's back, and he's hoofing it up these stairs. And boy, Tom was definitely a strong dude. But these two, they eventually give up chase. They're like, we have what we need. Just let them go. And then right here in this frame right here, they are exactly right here on the Haiku stairs. And this whole time, Higgins, he's drugged and he's just rambling. However, in this frame, it's no longer Tom Selleck on the stairs. That's actually John Nordlum, Tom's stunt double. And John, he's carrying a little mannequin dressed up to look like Higgins. But Tom, he can't handle Higgins rambling anymore, so he screams for him to shut up, and then it just echoes and echoes through the valley. It's a really funny scene. Next, we see them all back at the estate, recovering from the Haiku stairs. They get a phone call from the front gate, and Digger, she goes to the gate. While she's gone, Tom, he jumps up. He tells Higgins to call and find out if any Laseronics bigwigs are protected by Starguard, which he does. And while he's doing that, Tom, he calls Robin on his jet, and he tells Robin what's going on, and they kind of form a plan on how to deal with it. And then Digger returns from the gate with the president of Starguard, who we recognize as the person behind all of this. David, he's the one working with Laseronics to try and prevent Robin Masters from publishing this new novel he's working on. The phone rings. Higgins answers it. He talks to Robin for a moment. He hangs up. And then Higgins informs everyone that, the tapes are at the estate and Robin is coming to the estate to pick them up. And then David here, the president of Starguard, he says, well, I'd like to look around and check out your defenses and make a few phone calls. Next, we see Higgins dropping Tom off at the front gate so he can talk to Rick. And then Higgins leaves the estate so he can go meet Robin. Now, Tom tells Rick, he says, we're going to get hit when TC lands at the estate. He says, but it's just a diversion. Whatever you do, do not leave your post. He says the main attack is going to come from inside of the estate. And then we see Tom and Digger walking along right through here on the grounds. And he informs her that Starguard also protects the president of Laseronics. Basically tells her that, he thinks she's in on this. And she assures Tom that she is not. Says this is all just a coincidence. Tom gives her the old lie detector kiss test. And then he reads her reaction. And then basically tells her that he does trust her. He tells her that he doesn't think she's in on it. Next, we see Higgins at the airport to meet up with Robin. TC comes in and he lands next to Robin's jet. And Robin makes his way over to Higgins, shakes his hand, and then they both make their way over and board TC's helicopter, which would have landed right in this area, general area here. This side of the airport has been redeveloped quite a bit over the years, so there really wasn't a whole lot I could match up. But they're in this general area. If you look right here, you can see Lagoon Drive, and then the ocean, and then the reef runway out here. So you've got Lagoon Drive, the ocean, and then the reef runway out here. And this isn't terribly far from another location they used in this season, the ARF fire station over here. This is just a stone's throw from that location right here. And then they lift off and start to make their way to the estate. Next, we see a van pull up in front of the estate, and a survey crew starts to get out of the van. But we know it's not actually a survey crew, and so does Rick. He radios back to Tom and says, boy, are they making this look obvious. And Tom informs David and Digger what's going on. And at that same time, TC, he starts to come in to land at the estate. These two see that, and they go straight for their rifles, and they start to attack the front gate to act as a distraction. And Rick, he gets into a gunfight with them. And then David, he tells Digger and Tom to go to the front gate to help Rick, and that he'll take care of Robin. Digger, she goes to the front gate to help Rick, but Tom, he stays behind. And the helicopter lands about right there. And Tom, he makes his way out to the helicopter. He helps Higgins out of the helicopter. He tells Higgins to go to the guest house and protect that area. He says they might try and sneak in from the beach. And then he goes to the other side of the helicopter, and he gets Robin out. And they make their way into the estate. But before they can do that, we see TC. He gets his window shot out. He's just like, because it always seems to happen to TC, and he knew it was going to happen. Back at the front gate, we see Rick. He's still engaged in a gunfight, and he hits Lisa here. They both pile back into the van, and they drive away. And then we get this scene inside of the main house. Tom and Robin are in the den at the safe. David comes in and he tells Tom that, hey, they've got Higgins pinned down at the beach. You need to go help him. And then Tom, he leaves the den to go help Higgins. And then David, once Tom's gone, he says to Robin, Robin, I'll take the tapes now. And then Robin, who isn't Robin, turns around. At some point between the airport and the estate, Higgins and Robin, they changed clothes. And then Tom comes in and says, he doesn't have the tapes, David. Robin has them. And then David makes his way over to the doorway. He looks out just in time to see Robin, dressed as Higgins, getting back into the helicopter. And they lift off. And David realizes that he is no longer the president of Starguard. And in the final scene of this episode, we see Tom and Digger in the guest house having a nice romantic evening, when suddenly there's a knock on the door. Tom reluctantly says, "Who is it?" And in comes Higgins. And these guys are like, oh no, there goes our quiet, romantic evening. Higgins starts to make his way down into the guest house, lets them know that Robin called and said that the tapes are safely in the hands of his publishers. He also wants to know how Tom knew the tapes were in the guest house. And Tom says that Robin had asked him to hold on to them the last time he was on the estate. So Tom just put them with the rest of his cassettes. And Higgins, he sits down and he starts to say, oh, it's fascinating how you can just camouflage something like that in plain sight. And then these guys are like, yep, he's not leaving. And then Higgins, he starts to tell a classic Higgins story, which completely cracks these two up. And that is how this episode ends. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I did making it. If you did enjoy it, please hit that like and subscribe button. The next episode that I cover in this filming location series will be the season 1 finale, episode number 18, Beauty Knows No Pain. Lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Aloha.